Hello, and welcome once again to a Dwarven Tavern video. I am bringing you another beginner's video, and this time it is going to be about rules lawyers. This is a broad topic, and it might be a long video, but we are going to be talking about several different aspects of what a rules lawyer is, and also how to both avoid it and avoid playing with it. Now, there are some pros to being and playing with a rules lawyer, but there are also cons that could infect the game and, mess with the mojo of the game that is being played. So, first of all, let us define what a rules lawyer is. Now, a rules lawyer is someone who abides by the laws of the book, no matter what the DM or the GM or the person in control of the game says otherwise. Like, for example, if the DM is excluding gold from the treasure that is got from defeating a monster, but in the book it says you get a certain amount of gold for defeating said monster, the rules lawyer would try to insist that that gold be paid, even if the DM says otherwise. So, the rules lawyer, no matter what the person in control of the game says, is always going to reinforce what the book says, in conflicting opinions. So, there are definitely pros and definitely cons to this type of person. So, the pros are that this person can keep the game on track. They can reinforce the rules while other gamers might be, trying to play for funsies or not taking the game as seriously as, say, the DM or the other players want it to be. So the rules lawyer can almost be a deputy DM, as we like to say in the tavern. It's the player who's not the DM but has experience DMing and therefore can help reinforce the law of the DM by being a rules lawyer. They also are there for a reason. The rules. They're called rules for a reason, and they are there for a reason. So the rules lawyer can insist that they be taken seriously because the game could possibly fall apart without these rules in place. It's a little more lenient for role-playing games because there is so much to the role-playing game itself that the rules might be a little vague. So by being a rules lawyer, they can insist these very specific musts stay in place in order to keep the chaos out of the game as much as possible. Unless it is a chaotic game, and then that's a whole different story. So another very good thing about rules lawyers is that if done correctly, they can help out newbies. They can help out the new gamers who are experiencing the game for the first time. So they can, by having the knowledge of being a rules lawyer, they can talk to the newbies saying, okay, this is when you level up, this is how many experience points you still need, this is how many you get from defeating this monster, this is how many you get by doing this or that or having this exchange. They can help reinforce the DM's law, especially if the DM has a lot of players. Like if it's like an 8-player game and you've got like 3 newbies, then a rules lawyer who knows the game like the back of their hand can step in while the DM is trying to give out experience points here or there, so that the DM has less on their plate, and the rules lawyer can also use his his evil ways for good. They're not evil. This is very, very neutral talk. So, the three cons, just to recap, is that they can keep the rules in place for what they are there for. They can help move the game along when it's becoming a little too frayed at the ends, and they can also help out newbies who are very confused by the whole role-playing aspect, which I have experienced on several occasions. Now, for the more obvious section of this video, the cons of being a rules lawyer. And those are, it's just plain annoying. Having someone nag at you for following certain rules at all times is just, it's it's constant and unnecessary, and the next thing it is that it undermines the DM's authority. If it is a small group and everybody knows what they're doing, then a rules lawyer's authority is not necessary. And especially if the DM and the rules lawyer are on the same level of understanding for that game, it may come off as a little undermining and a little disrespectful to the DM and their authority. The DM might not necessarily need a deputy DM at that point in time, so the rules lawyer would need to learn when to step down, when to let the dungeon master or game master or what have you take control of the authority of the game as they are supposed to do. Another con, which is a lot bigger, surprisingly a lot bigger than the first two I've mentioned, is that if the rules lawyer is taking control of the game where he is not supposed to, then it could possibly conflict with already made house rules. For example, like I've mentioned before, is that sometimes defeating monsters may not give you gold, depending on the situation in which the monsters are in. However, the monster manual very clearly states, using Dungeons and Dragons as an example, that you get a certain amount of gold for defeating that monster. However, in this situation, that monster may not have gold. So it's not exactly as straight-laced as, say, a video game, in where you get gold and experience points. Like if you're playing Pokemon and you defeat a trainer, you get money and experience points from that trainer. But in that real situation, in real life, you would probably not get money for defeating that trainer. Just throwing that out there. So a rules lawyer would be like, this is how it's played according to the book. I don't care what the house rules say, and therefore not only are you having that conflict, but you're undermining the DM's authority, and you're being just god-awfully annoying. So, those are the pros and cons. Now let's tackle the how to avoid being one. So, it's good and it's bad, and it really does depend on how you are as a rules lawyer, but let's talk about avoiding the cons. So, in certain situations, being a rules lawyer can be beneficial, as mentioned before, but avoiding the negative aspects of being a rules lawyer is extremely important. You want to make sure that everybody is on the same page, and that's fine. But the way that the way that a rules lawyer goes about it is really what defines that person as a player. So, when you are in a game and you are trying to rules lawyer it, let's say count how many times I say rules lawyer in this video. I'm sure it's a lot. I think the best way to avoid it is to realize just how much the DM's authority needs to be emphasized. If there are newbies who are not really understanding, or if there are people who aren't taking the game as seriously as the DM is wanting it to be, and you can see that the DM is getting frustrated with their attitudes, then possibly, if you feel it might be appropriate, you can step in and help and, help reinforce the authority instead of undermine it, and help out where you think it may be necessary. And if you're unsure, talk to your DM. See, communication is extremely important in these types of situations. So talk to your DM, ask them even beforehand, even before you game, say, hey, I'm kind of a rules lawyer, I'm a real big stickler for these certain situations, and I just want you to understand that I might cut in. I just want you to know that I'm not trying to undermine your authority. I'm not trying to push in my own laws. I just want you to know that I'm here for you, and if you need help, let me know. If not, I'll back off. And the DM will be like, okay, cool, thank you for letting me know. I really appreciate that. Actually, there are a few newbies in this game who could really use your help while I'm trying to push the story along. Then, that conflict is completely resolved before it even happens. Another way to do it is that you can just make sure to not step in where you think you might be necessary, because it might not be necessary. But overall, just ask the DM. Ask the DM if it's okay if you can be a deputy DM. Ask the DM if it's okay that you can reinforce these particular rules. Talk with your DM beforehand to talk about house rules and what may conflict with what you've learned in the book. So being a rules lawyer is not necessarily a bad thing, and I know we've trash-talked it a few times in the tavern before, but I want you to realize that there are some positive aspects of being a rules lawyer, and at that certain point, it's not really called a rules lawyer anymore. It's more of a deputy DM, as I've mentioned before. It's kind of a helper to the DM, the Santa's little helper, if you would. The next thing to talk about is dealing with a rules lawyer. There are two different aspects to this. There's you can deal with them or you cannot deal with them. The first one would be to deal with them is just going it from the opposite perspective. Talk to the person that you think may be a rules lawyer, or talk to them if they have proven that they are a rules lawyer and everyone in the game is past the point where they need help. You can talk to them and say, hey, you are kind of being a rules lawyer with certain aspects of this game. There are house rules, and they are very strictly enforced, and you can be a rules lawyer as long as it's in the benefit of the game. Probably shouldn't use the term rules lawyer because that can be insulting if you use it in that sense. So I would suggest saying something along the lines of, hey, you are kind of trying to take over my game, and I just want you to know that while I, appreciate you trying to keep the game on track, everybody seems to know what they're doing. So just enjoy the game. You don't really need to, this is a game for fun. You don't really need to enforce the rules that much. Let's just tone it down a little bit. And I'm sure that they'll understand. If not, that problem could probably take care of itself by that person leaving. If you really want them to participate, if you really want them to be part of the game, just sit down, talk with them before the game or outside the game, and just say, hey man, or hey woman, or hey chick, or hey woman is not a very good terminology. Say, hey man, please, if you could, just tone down the rules lawyering or tone down the help. Everyone's pretty much established in game, so could you just chillax? And a lot of the time, they probably won't even know that they're doing it. I have a friend who has self-admitted to, doing a lot of stuff like that without her even realizing that she's doing it. And you just talk to them, they're like, oh man, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to do that. So just talk to them, get it out there, and or you can just let them do it, and maybe the other players would talk to them. But as the DM, it is your duty to talk to them to make sure that they understand what they're doing. Or enforce it and let them be a rules lawyer. Tell them that you want them to be your sidekick, to be your partner in crime for helping these players out. Help them understand the game a little bit more, even if you're all on the same level and the rules lawyering is just, out of hand. You could just say, okay, well, why don't we both DM? We'll round robin this bitch, and, you play DM one day and then I'll play DM another day. Being very flexible can get the game to progress a little faster than if you were to halt the game and lecture somebody in the middle of a gaming session. It might be annoying at the time, but if you just sit down and talk about it either after or before, preferably before, the whole situation could iron itself out before conflicts could even arise. Now, how to not deal with a rules lawyer, and that is just simply kick them out of the game. If they're constantly down your back and they're just on you for every little detail, then that's probably not the best type of person to play with when everybody's an experienced gamer at the table. If they want to be the DM so bad, they can play a DM in another campaign. If they strictly enforce the rules that hard, then potentially they're not suited for that type of role-playing game. I would not suggest this unless it's last minute, last chance type of ordeal. So please avoid it as much as possible because everybody wants to be included in the game and everybody wants to roleplay for similar reasons. They just want to escape from reality and they just want to enjoy their time, have some stress relief, have some friend time, have guy night or girl night or whatever. They just want to be there for fun. And if there's someone that's being a rules lawyer and ruining it, then it would suck that talking it out could not work, but at that point in time, they would probably have to go. So that's a last minute thing for me. I usually try to talk to them beforehand and get it established that they are being kind of a dick, but it can be resolved friendly and happily, and they can still be in the game. But if they're just deciding that they need to be a part of the DMing, if they just need to be a crucial... If they need to be the book themselves, then they probably shouldn't be a part of that game. Maybe they could find a different game that calls for it, like if there are newbies, or if everybody else is a rules lawyer and they all have to abide by it. There are no house rules. Then that's the type of game that they should seek out. If they're trying to be a rules lawyer for a game where they are, everybody's trying to have a good time, it's kind of a crack fluff game, which is a terminology for, it's just for shits and giggles, and they're trying to be a rules lawyer for a game that's purposefully chaotic, then you might need to talk to them, tell them to take a step back and realize what game they're a part of. But I would say kicking them out should be the absolute last resort. So, there's my 2 cents, and I hope that helped you learn and understand what a rules lawyer is just a tiny bit more. If you find yourself being a rules lawyer, take a step back and see if it's really necessary for the game. Talk to your DM, or if you are the DM and being a rules lawyer, talk to yourself and realize, is this what this game needs? The DM is a little more strict with being a rules lawyer. You kind of need to be a little bit of a rules lawyer as a DM. So it's kind of a situation that's a little more complicated, a little fuzzier with the necessity of being one. So talk to your players, see if you are being that way, see if, it could be a little more lax, a little more relaxed, see if it's necessary to the game that you are playing. If not, you can always just let up a little bit. Maybe it'll make the game a little more entertaining, or maybe the game needs a little more rules following. Maybe it needs a little more entertainment, a little more law to the game. So it really just depends on the game that you're playing. It depends on the players that you're with. Talk to your campaign, talk to the people that you're playing with, see if that type of personality is necessary for this game, and that should clear up any conflict, that should clear up any situational problems. That should help keep the game fun and entertaining. So, I have been Lyric with the Dwarven Tavern. This is a beginner's video. If you have any ideas for beginner's videos whatsoever, if you're curious about any aspect of gaming, please comment below. This rules lawyer thing can be applied to pretty much any game. I was just using Dungeons and Dragons as an example because that's what I'm most familiar with. So, please comment below if you have any suggestions, aside from me just not clicking my teeth. I do apologize for that. But I have been Lyric, once again, with the Dwarven Tavern, and on behalf of the entire Dwarven Tavern, I wish for you to want for nothing but adventure, and at first I feared it, then I charged. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.